Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Murky Murder by Hazel Smith, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Ivy stood before her full-length mirror, her heart pounding like a drum beat. The shimmering soft pink fabric of the Gucci dress lay on her neatly made bed. She bit her lower lip, her reflection a mix of uncertainty and excitement. This dress was a far cry from her usual attire. It was elegance and luxury woven into every thread. Her fingers brushed the delicate material, her thoughts flowing into whispered words. What am I even doing? This dress must be worth a fortune. The dress was a gift from her boss, Mr. Humphrey, who owned Hotel LaFontaine, where Ivy worked. Ivy had known him for a while, but tonight was different. It was their first date. She had been caught off guard when he had asked her out. The thought of it still seemed surreal. As Ivy slipped into the dress, the soft fabric embraced her like a second skin. She spun around in front of the mirror, assessing herself from every angle. Not bad for 29, Ivy giggled. This dress is gorgeous. The vibrant color seemed to radiate confidence, though she felt a mixture of discomfort and thrill. The feeling of stepping into a world she had only ever glimpsed from afar while working at the hotel. Her hand smoothed over the fabric. A date with Sir Maximilian Hardy Humphrey. I never thought I'd see the day. She had admired him from a distance and respected him as a boss, but this was an entirely different dimension. With her dark brown hair elegantly styled and just a touch of makeup gracing her ivory skin, Ivy finally felt ready. She took one last look in the mirror, her reflection one of poise and insecurity. Well, Monty, what do you think? She asked her sleek black Great Dane, who tilted his head in response. I know, I haven't seen myself like this since prom. A knock on the door snapped her out of the momentary conversation. Ivy's heart skipped a beat. Do you think it's him, Monty? She took a deep breath, steadying herself as she headed to the front door. Opening it, she was met with a smile that seemed to light up her entire apartment. Good evening, Ivy. Mr. Humphrey greeted her with a soft smile, his eyes holding a warmth that washed away her nerves. Hi, Ivy replied, her voice slightly shaky as she raised her eyes to meet his gaze. He looked dashing as ever, his presence starkly contrasting with her simple life. His dark chocolate-colored hair framed his chiseled jawline. His eyes, a mesmerizing shade of deep blue, twinkled with a hint of mischief as he smiled at her, causing her heart to flutter like a trapped butterfly. You look stunning, he complimented, his gaze lingering on her. Her cheeks flushed, and she managed a shy smile. Thank you. So do you. Shall we? Mr. Humphrey offered his arm to Ivy with a smile. She gladly took it, and they headed outside where Mr. Humphrey's driver awaited them. The city lights danced around them as they climbed into the sleek car. I hope you like the restaurant, Mr. Humphrey said. The owner is a family friend and a very good man. I'm sure I will. Ivy's thoughts were a whirlwind on the way to the restaurant. As the two talked in the back of the car, she recalled their conversations at the hotel, their shared moments, which usually centered around work. This night is different, a leap into the unknown. I'm ready, so let's go. As Ivy and Mr. Humphrey entered the elegant restaurant, a warm atmosphere enveloped them. The restaurant was astonishing, a symphony of elegance that took Ivy's breath away. The hum of quiet conversations and the clinking of glasses added to the ambiance. My father and I used to come here quite often, Mr. Humphrey said softly. I can see why. It's wonderful. As Ivy was taking it all in, a young man in a well-tailored suit approached them with a welcoming smile that revealed a set of dimples. His demeanor carried an air of confidence and familiarity. Good evening, Max, Miss Stone. He greeted them with a nod. It's a pleasure to have you both with us tonight. Mr. Humphrey returned the smile, extending his hand for a brief handshake. Thank you, Robert. It's always a pleasure. Ivy offered a polite nod, a touch of nerves mingling with her excitement. The pleasure is all ours. Your table is ready. Right this way, please. With a graceful gesture, Robert led them through the restaurant's refined interior. Ivy took in the sophisticated decor and the rich colors that adorned the walls. The gentle clinking of silverware created a harmonious arrangement around them. As they reached the table, Mr. Humphrey pulled out a chair for Ivy. Thank you, Ivy smiled appreciatively, taking her seat. Mr. Humphrey nodded his thanks to Robert as he settled into his chair. Your server will be with you shortly to take your orders, Robert informed them, his tone friendly and attentive. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you, Robert, Mr. Humphrey replied. Ivy's gaze lingered on the polished surroundings as excitement and anticipation swirled in her veins. I'm grateful for Max's company and the chance to experience a different world, if only for an evening, but I feel so out of place here. The waiter appeared soon after to take the first orders. As Mr. Humphrey easily ordered a bottle of wine, Ivy couldn't help but feel out of her element, her eyes scanning the array of forks, glasses, and cutlery. Oh, God, please don't let me embarrass myself. As Robert took his leave, Ivy looked down at her dress nervously and then up at the handsome man across the table. Mr. Humphrey, his gaze gentle yet attentive, caught her glance and smiled. You look stunning in that dress, Ivy. She blushed, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Thank you, Max. Is something bothering you? It's just that, well, it's a bit more high-end than I'm used to. The dress or the restaurant? Mr. Humphrey raised an eyebrow. Both, to tell you the truth? He chuckled softly before replying. I wanted to make sure you felt special on our first official date. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. I appreciate the gesture truly, but there's something I should confess. I'm not quite accustomed to receiving such expensive gifts. Is that so? Mr. Humphrey's eyes held a hint of curiosity. I mean, don't get me wrong, the dress is absolutely beautiful, but I've always been more of a simpler Midwest kind of gal. He chuckled again, the warm sound filling the space between them. I understand. Sometimes it's the sentiment that matters more than the price tag. Ivy met his gaze, her heart swelling with appreciation. Exactly. It's not that I don't like nice things. It's just they make me a tad uncomfortable. Mr. Humphrey leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. Well, in that case, I apologize if I made you uncomfortable. She shook her head, her smile widening. Oh, no need to apologize. It's just that moving forward, maybe we can keep our gifts simple. I'm afraid I just couldn't compete with Gucci and Chanel. The corners of his mouth curled, his eyes sparkling with amusement. I understand. No more grand gifts, just simple ones that come from the heart. Like the wonderful jumper you knit for my Lucy? Yes, please. Ivy's eyes lit up. Does it still fit? Monty outgrew his in 2 months. She loves it on cool London mornings. He took a sip of Chardonnay. Her greyhound bones need it since her racing days have long been over. Ivy's initial nervousness melted away as the laughter subsided, replaced by genuine enjoyment and warmth. Mr. Humphrey's understanding and lightheartedness put her at ease, reminding her why she'd been so drawn to him in the first place. As they enjoyed their meal, the conversation flowed naturally between them. After a lighthearted exchange about their favorite desserts, Mr. Humphrey leaned toward Ivy. You know, Ivy, Mr. Humphrey began with a warm smile, I couldn't be more pleased about your recent promotion to head housekeeper. Did you see the hotel website update? There's a very flattering article and photo of you. Not yet, Ivy blushed. It's all happening so quickly. I have some pretty big shoes to fill. I am confident you'll fill Mrs. Becker's shoes in your own unique way. This means a lot to me, Max. Ivy's eyes sparkled with gratitude. I'm torn between nervous and excited. I don't doubt you'll get accustomed to the position quickly. He nodded, his gaze conveying a deep understanding. I remember when I first reviewed your application, Ivy. Your experience with your grandmother's maid business stood out. From the moment I read it, I had a good feeling about you, and I must say my admiration has only grown over time. Likewise, Ivy felt her cheeks turn pink. Coming to London was the best decision I've ever made. Ivy's heart warmed at his words. You've been the best boss I've ever had. I'm not your boss here, Ivy. I'm just a man on a first date with a lovely woman. Ivy felt a spark she had never felt with anyone as their eyes met. There was an unspoken connection, and it became evident that something special was blooming between Ivy and Mr. Humphrey, personally and professionally. Mr. Humphrey made Ivy feel comfortable just by looking at her. The intimate ambiance of the restaurant seemed to cocoon Ivy and Mr. Humphrey as they sat across from each other. A candle flickered between them, a warm, gentle light accentuating their features. Ivy couldn't believe her luck. Here I am on my first date with Max, whom I've admired from afar for so long. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a mix of shared laughter and sincere exchanges. As they talked, Ivy found herself captivated by Mr. Humphrey's words and the way his eyes seemed to hold a world of stories. She felt a connection, a spark that made her heart race. And then it happened. A hushed moment settled between them. Ivy felt as if the world around them had faded, leaving only the two of them in this timeless bubble. Mr. Humphrey's warm hand found its way across the table, gently grasping hers. Their eyes met and locked in an unspoken understanding. In that instant, Ivy felt as if she were seeing beyond the surface, a glimpse into the depths of Mr. Humphrey's soul. It was as if their shared connection had transcended words, each lingering gaze telling its own story. Ivy's heart fluttered and her breath caught in her throat. But then, the spell was broken. The serene atmosphere shattered as the harmonious sounds of their evening were replaced by a sudden cacophony of noise. Glass was shattered and the sound of chairs sliding across the floor echoed through the air. Ivy and Mr. Humphrey snapped their heads in the direction of the disturbance. "What's happening?" Ivy asked. Their eyes widened as they witnessed the scene before them, a commotion that seemed to unfold in slow motion. Restaurant security personnel dressed in crisp uniforms dashed through the dining area, their expressions a mix of urgency and determination. The guests around them turned to watch, their conversation suspended in curiosity. And, at the center of it all, a hooded figure burst into view. The hooded man moved surprisingly quickly, weaving through the maze of tables and chairs. "Stop!" The security personnel followed closely, their voices authoritative and commanding. "Put the knife down, sir!" Another security guard yelled at the man. Guests sat frozen in fear as the scene unfolded, the tension palpable in the air. Mr. Humphrey tightened his grip on Ivy's hand as the man drew closer. The hooded man caught his foot on the carpet and stumbled slightly. Swearing audibly, the man recovered and bolted for the nearest exit. Just as quickly as it had begun, the chase ended. The attacker managed to slip past the security personnel and disappeared into the night. Ivy and Mr. Humphrey exchanged a bewildered look. As the tension in the restaurant eased, the noise gradually returned to a hum of conversation and clinking cutlery. The enchanting atmosphere had shifted, replaced by a sense of curiosity and intrigue. Max loosened his grip on Ivy's hand, still holding it gently yet firmly, a reassuring anchor amidst the unexpected chaos. "Are you two all right?" Robert rushed to their table. "Yes, why wouldn't we be?" Max's expression darkened. "That man was running towards your table."